Remember that Mac Pro? Now, if you do remember the Mac Pro, you probably know it because of three things. The main one is its performance. This thing is crazy powerful. With a Xeon chip, you can actually have up to 12 cores, up to 64 gigabytes of ECC RAM, and also up to 2 GPUs, 2 AMD Fire Pros with up to 6 gigabytes of VRAM each. Yeah, this thing is crazy. Then besides being Apple's most powerful computer, you might know it by also being Apple's most expensive computer. So this thing, if you max it out, it's actually $10,000. Yeah, this thing is not cheap at all. And then you might also recognize it by its looks, because it kind of looks like a trash can. Now, unfortunately, we haven't had a single Mac Pro update ever since its release in 2013. So yeah, almost 4 years with no updates. And when everyone thought that the Mac Pro lineup was actually dead, Apple has just announced a new Mac Pro. And not just the new Mac Pro, but also a new iMac Pro. So here's everything you need to know about the new Mac Pro, the new iMac Pro, and all the new Mac updates. So yeah, enjoy. Speaking of the new Mac Pro and video editing, I just want to give a huge shout out to the sponsor of this video, which is videoblogs.com. So let's say that you want to make a movie or a YouTube video, but you just don't have the footage that you need. Well, on Videoblogs, you can actually find over 3 million stock videos that you can choose from things such as underwater shots, VR, sci-fi, even epic space shots, pretty much anything you can think of. You're probably going to find it in 4K, by the way, on videoblogs.com. Now, besides this, they also offer After Effects templates, motion templates, and so much more. And if you use the link in the description, you get a 7-day trial, so you can try all of this for free. Now, going back to the Mac Pro, on Tuesday just this week, Apple spoke to some news outlets and they basically admitted that the current generation Mac Pro is flawed. So here's what Phil Schiller has said about the Mac Pro. We're not going to get into exactly what stage we're in, just that we told the team to take the time and do something really great. To do something that can be supported for a long time with customers with updates and upgrades throughout the years. We'll take the time that it takes to do that. The current Mac Pro, as we've said a few times, was constrained thermally and it restricted our ability to upgrade it. And for that, we are sorry to disappoint customers who wanted that, and we've asked the team to go and re-architect and design something great for the future that those Mac Pro customers who want more expandability, more upgradability in the future. It will meet more of those needs. With regards to the Mac Pro, we are in the process of what we call completely rethinking the Mac Pro. We are working on it, we have a team working hard right now, and we want to architect it so that we can keep it fresh with regular improvements, and we're committed to making it our highest end, highest throughput desktop system, designed for our demanding Pro customers. And here's where it gets really interesting. As part of doing a new Mac Pro, it is by definition a modular system, and we will be doing a Pro display as well. Now, you won't see any of those products this year. We're in the process of that. We think it's really important to create something great for our Pro customers who want a Mac Pro modular system, and that will take longer than this year to do. In the meantime, we know that there are a number of customers who continue to buy our current generation Mac Pros. To be clear, our Mac Pro has met the needs of some of our customers, and we know clearly not all of all customers. None of this is black and white, it's a wide variety of customers. For some, it's the kind of system they wanted. For others, it was not. In the meantime, we're going to update the configs to make it faster, better for their dollar. This is not a new model, not a new design. We're going to update the configs. We're doing this week. We can give you the specifics on that. The CPUs, we're moving them down the line. The GPUs down the line to get more performance per dollar for customers who do need to continue to buy them on the interim until we get a newly architected system. So there we go. As Phil said, there's actually a new Mac Pro in the works, finally. And the coolest thing about this is that it's actually going to be a fully modular system. Unfortunately, it's not coming out this year, so it's only coming out in 2018 or maybe even in 2019. Hopefully 2018, hopefully. So a modular Mac Pro, what does this mean? Well, it means that it's going to be really similar to the first generation Mac Pro. So it's going to be a full desktop computer in which you can pretty much upgrade anything you want. So you'll be able to upgrade RAM, obviously, the CPU, and even the GPUs. This is something that it wasn't possible with the current generation Mac Pros, and then maybe even the flash storage as well. So again, it's going to be more similar to the first generation Mac Pro than to the second generation trash can Mac Pro. Yeah, unfortunately, this was the biggest failure to the 2013 Mac Pro. It wasn't upgradable. I mean, you could upgrade the CPU, yes, but you had to use a Xeon chip because the socket was a Xeon socket, and then GPUs, they were not upgradable at all. Because they were custom made for that Mac Pro. So even the pins were custom made for that GPUs, not even to mention the size to fit this case. So the GPUs were not upgradable, only the CPU, and you were stuck to using the old generation Xeon chips. The 2013 MacBook Pro was essentially built for people who did a lot of scientific work or who simply worked with a lot of 3D models. That's the reason why it used not one, but actually 2 GPU cards, 2 workstation GPUs, and also ECC RAM. ECC, in case you don't know, ECC RAM is really expensive. It's crazy expensive. However, it gives little to almost no error. So if you're doing a lot of scientific work, you obviously don't want any errors. So that's why ECC memory is the way to go. Okay, so design-wise, how is the new Mac Pro going to look like? Well, it's not going to be as small as this generation, by the way. So it's going to look pretty similar to the first generation. Obviously not as huge as the first generation, so expect something size-wise at least in between the first generation and the second generation. Now, according to Apple, the thermal system of the new Mac Pro is going to be re-engineered from scratch, and they also want to use the best and also the most powerful graphics card on the market. That's some really awesome news. However, we don't know yet what that new graphics card is going to be. So maybe it's going to be the NVIDIA 1080 Ti, the GTX 1080 Ti, or basically the newer model in 2018 or 2019. Or maybe it's going to be the new AMD Vega graphics cards. I kind of have a feeling that Apple will go with AMD and not NVIDIA, even though I would prefer Apple to go with NVIDIA. But regardless, here's what Craig Federighi has said when it comes to the GPU and also the thermal design of the new Mac Pros. I think we designed ourselves into a bit of a thermal corner, if you will. We designed a system that we thought with the kind of GPUs that at a time we thought we needed and that we thought we could serve well with a 2 GPU architecture, that was the thermal limit we needed or the thermal capacity we needed. But workloads didn't materialize to fit that as broadly as we hoped. Being able to put larger single GPUs, again another hint at maybe the NVIDIA GTX 1080 Ti, required a different system architecture and more thermal capacity than the system was designed to accommodate. And so it became fairly difficult to adjust. At the same time, so many of our customers were moving to the iMac that we saw a path to address many of those that were finding themselves limited by a Mac Pro through a next generation iMac, and we really put a lot of energy behind that. But while the upgraded iMac system is going to be fantastic for a huge number of customers, we want to do even more. So there we go, a more professional version of the iMac confirmed, which I'll be covering in a second. Okay, so apart from the new modular design, the new thermal system, and also the new single really powerful GPU, actually do expect maybe, hopefully we'll see some sort of an SLI system. So maybe the GTX 1080 Ti and SLI would be insane on a Mac Pro, on a non-Hackintosh Mac. That would be just amazing. Let me know in the comments if any of you want that. Obviously it's going to be crazy expensive, and also do expect to see a non-Xeon chip in the Mac Pro. Okay, so why is that? Why switch from a Xeon processor? Well, that's because Xeon processors are really good when it comes to server applications, but when it actually comes to consumer work, such as maybe even video editing, they're not that good. And that's because Xeon chips, they don't have Intel QuickSync, so they don't have QuickSync support, they don't have an integrated GPU basically. That's why they don't support QuickSync. And having QuickSync simply makes those export times a lot faster, especially in Final Cut Pro 10, by the way. So for example, a MacBook Air is actually faster when it comes to export times than a Mac Pro, than a $10,000 Mac Pro, which is crazy. Other than that, you expect to see USB-C and Thunderbolt 3 as well, and also maybe even some faster flash storage. Actually, this is definitely going to happen because on the new MacBook Pros, we actually have flash storage of up to 3100 megabytes per second, not megabits, megabytes, yeah, over 3 gigabytes per second transfer speeds, which is just crazy insane. That's the fastest consumer grade flash storage on the market right now, and the Mac Pro maybe it's going to get something even faster than that. Okay, so what's going to happen with the current generation Mac Pros? Because Phil Schiller has actually mentioned some updates. I mean, yeah, in a way we did get some updates. No actual updates, but Apple has dropped the price for all configurations significantly. So now you can buy a mid-tier Mac Pro with a 6-core Xeon chip and also the D500 AMD FirePro GPUs. You can buy that for $3,000, and previously it was about $4,000 or actually even more. But even with that pretty significant price drop, it's still not worth it. So don't buy a Mac Pro just yet. Simply wait until next year, or hopefully it's going to be 2018 and not 2019. Okay, so what else besides the new Mac Pros? Well, Apple has also announced they also talked about some new Apple displays, some professional Apple displays that would go with the new Mac Pros. So you probably know the Apple Thunderbolt display. Now, the Apple Thunderbolt display actually got discontinued back in 2016, so last year, and that's because it was a pretty old device. So it wasn't updated. It hasn't been updated ever since 2011. So 5 years with no updates, and yeah, finally the Thunderbolt display got discontinued. Now, it was replaced, so to say, by the new LG ultrafine display 4K and 5K monitors. Apple has announced these as a replacement for the Apple Thunderbolt displays, and these were designed specifically for the new MacBook Pros. And yeah, it seems that just as everyone thought that Apple was going to quit the display business, they haven't quit the display business just yet, because yeah, there's a new Apple Pro display in the works for next year. So what do we know exactly about this display? Well, it's most likely going to be a 5K display. Then it's also going to be a 10-bit panel, so just like the 5K LG display, that's also a 10-bit panel. But Apple has said that this is a professional display. They're not calling the LG ultrafine displays a professional display, even though the LG ultrafine 5K display has the exact same display panel as the 5K Retina iMac. So the exact same panel, LG also makes this panel, and they also make those displays. So what can be more professional than that? Well, it might just be that it can support Rec 2020. So that would be insane. Rec 2020 on a display. That's way higher than DCI-P3. That would be just amazing. Rec 2020, I'm really excited for that, hopefully. Now, as a connection, do expect it to be Thunderbolt 3. Now, by the way, not sure how many of you know this, but the current generation LG ultrafine displays, they don't support DisplayPort 1.3. They only support DisplayPort 1.2. So Apple does a trick with those displays. They basically run the display as two 2.5K displays. So they run in a multi-stream instead of a single stream. So I'm guessing that the new Apple displays will support DisplayPort 1.3 and the new Mac Pros as well. So they would actually be single stream displays. That would be my guess. And a while ago, I did a Final Leaks and Rumors video on the new MacBook Pros, on the new 2016 MacBook Pros. And in that video, I talked about the new Apple displays that were actually in the works. And those displays actually had a GPU, an integrated GPU that would basically boost the performance of the attached MacBook Pro. Now, unfortunately, that never ended happening because Apple never released an Apple display. Instead, they released those LG ultrafine displays. So this might be a possibility for the new Apple Pro display, a GPU built into the display, even though this wouldn't make that much sense since the Mac Pro would already be insane. But yeah, maybe they're going to release two models, one for the Mac Pro and then another one with an integrated GPU for the MacBook Pros. That would be amazing as well. So just think about it. You have a 13-inch MacBook Pro, and then when you go to work or when you get home, you connect it to that display and boom, you have the full GPU performance of a high-end mobile GPU, or maybe even a desktop GPU, most likely a high-end mobile GPU. And then besides the new Mac Pro and also besides the new Apple displays, there's also a new iMac in the works, and it's not just a regular iMac, it's actually an iMac geared toward professionals, so maybe an iMac Pro. So here's what Craig Federighi has said regarding the new iMacs that are in the works. That is a pretty incredible evolution that we've seen over the last decade. The original iMac you never would have thought as remotely touching pro users. Now if you look at today's 5K iMac, top configs, it's incredibly powerful, and a huge fraction of what would have traditionally, whether it's audio editing, video editing, graphics arts, and so forth, that would have previously absolutely required the Mac Pros of old, are being well addressed by the iMac. But there's still even further we can take the iMac as a high-performance Pro system, and we think that form factor can address even more of the Pro market. And then Phil Schiller has said this: Apple has great new iMacs in the pipeline, slated for release this year, including configurations specifically targeted at large segments of the Pro market. Configurations of iMac specifically with a Pro consumer in mind, and acknowledging that our most popular desktop with Pros is an iMac. So there you go, a new iMac. An iMac Pro will probably be its name. An iMac geared towards professionals is coming later on this year. Now, what does this mean? An iMac Pro, why is it better than this iMac, and what changes, what improvements will the new iMac Pro have? Well, I'm not really sure, to be honest, because, for example, this is my iMac. This is my late 2015 iMac. This is the current generation iMac, and it's also the highest end model that you can get. So it comes with the Intel Skylake 6700K processor, which by the way is the flagship of the Skylake lineup, at least when it comes to the CPU clock. Mine also comes with 1TB of flash, up to 2GB per second, and then it also comes with 32GB of RAM, and you can actually upgrade that even further to 64GB. And then the only downside, to be honest, to this iMac is the actual GPU. So the GPU inside this iMac is the AMD M-R9 395X. It comes with 4GB of dedicated video memory, GDDR5 by the way, and in case you don't know, this is the most powerful mobile GPU that you can get from AMD, and it's actually overclocked a bit, but it's mobile, it's not a desktop GPU. So the only way that Apple can significantly improve this iMac is to simply use a desktop class GPU. But yeah, that's most likely not going to happen because the iMac is incredibly thin, and I don't see Apple making a thick iMac just to add a desktop GPU. Now one workaround, so to say, for this would be to have a really thin display but a thick base. So something that Microsoft has done with the Microsoft Surface. The Microsoft Surface has this really thick base, this Mac Mini base, so to say. So Apple could do something like this, have a really thick base or a thicker base, and then a really thin display, and that way they could actually add all of the components inside that base, even a desktop class GPU, if that base is large enough. So maybe that's going to happen. I don't think so. I think what Apple means by using this as a pro device, I think Apple simply means adding the most powerful mobile GPU that you can currently get. Maybe and hopefully something like an NVIDIA 1080. No, that's most likely not going to happen. It's most likely still going to be AMD cards, unfortunately. And finally, let's talk about the Mac Mini. So we have some updates in terms of the Mac Mini as well. So in terms of the Mac Mini, Phil Schiller has said this. On that, I'll say that the Mac Mini is an important product in our lineup. And we weren't bringing it up because it's more of a mix of consumer with some pro use. The Mac Mini remains a product in our lineup, but nothing more to say about it today. So it seems that the Mac Mini is not going to be discontinued. And since they said that we're not going to say anything else about it today, that obviously means that there's a new Mac Mini that's going to be released hopefully this year instead of next year. The Mac Mini is really outdated. The last update was in 2014, so almost 3 years ago. Now, in terms of the specs of the new Mac Mini, don't expect it to be anything else than a Mac Mini. So it's still going to be the cheapest Mac that you can buy, and it's not going to come with a dedicated GPU. Don't expect anything like that. So it's still going to come with integrated graphics. So just like the current generation Mac Mini, just upgraded graphics. So most likely a Kaby Lake architecture and then USB-C and maybe even Thunderbolt 3, although I don't think Thunderbolt 3 is going to be included into this Mac Mini. Hopefully, but I don't think so. So there you go, this was everything we currently know about the Mac Pro, the new iMac Pro, the new Mac Mini, and the new Apple displays. Let me know in the comments which device are you most excited for. Interesting enough for me, that would be probably the Apple display. Not the Mac Pro. I'm excited about the specs when it comes to the Mac Pro, but it's going to be really expensive and I won't buy it. Not necessarily because it's crazy expensive, that's obviously one of the reasons, but that's because I actually use a MacBook Pro as my main device. I love the portability of a MacBook Pro, so this is just like a painting. I only use this as background in my videos, the iMac. So yeah, I might be selling it soon. You might have noticed that my previous monitor is gone. That's because I don't have it anymore. I sold it. Yeah, I do use a MacBook Pro with an LG ultra-fine 5K display. That's my current setup. But yeah, if you have enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe for more videos like this one. And also don't forget to enable notifications on my channel by simply clicking on that bell icon next to my channel so that you're notified whenever I upload a brand new video. Other than that, also let me know in the comments if you're epic enough to make it until the end of this video by saying I was epic enough to make it until the end. And yeah, this was pretty much it for this video. Thank you for watching this video. I'm Daniel, and I'll see you guys in my next one. ZONEofTECH, signing out. Cheers.